Hello.
Hey.
So I got in my car yesterday
All right.
and I reach up to adjust the mirrors because my husband and I are very different heights, as you know. And what I see is an image that I'm going to send to you now.
All right.
I have texted it to you.
Here it is. Loading. Why is this here?
Would you like to describe to our audience what you're looking at?
I'm looking at a naked man who's covering his area with his hand. He's like bearded, kind of pot belly. He's laying on a bear rug. He's got a digital watch on, balding.
I love the digital watch. It's a good touch.
What?
So yeah, I found this with no explanation, and I just was like, Kyle's friend must have just put this up here like as a joke or something. But I love it so much, and I love just driving around with it and parking in places and just imagining people like seeing it and being like, look at this dirty bird here. The listeners, it actually is a photo of Bert Kreischer. Yeah, Kreischer. Can't say his name. Comedian.
Okay.
And some of Kyle's friends went to a show of his, and apparently that was the merch he was selling, was a coaster of his nude body.
That's awesome. I didn't recognize him either, I guess, but that makes more sense.
I really enjoy it. I'm not taking it down. So the next time you get in my car, just enjoy.
That's fine. And to be fair, you're probably not going to get too much judgment from people. I don't notice what people have in their cars when they're parked. I don't study them too much.
No, I'm more of a bumper sticker judger.
Yeah, I do look at bumper stickers, or like the stickers on like the glass pane or whatever.
Yeah, decals.
Stick figure families. Bleh.
Oh, it's the worst.
Listeners, if you've got one, it's okay. It's all right.
Which one's worse, stick figure families or zombie ones? Like, oh, look, I'm so clever. I like flipped the script.
Oh, those are better. Those are better than stick figure families.
They're better, but I still think they're cheesy.
Yeah, they are.
What's with the deer one? Like, that one, I mean, we live in Texas, so these are everywhere, but like, it's like a stag and it's like this like kind of abstract line work. Is that just like a hunting brand?
A stag with it. Can you Google this? I don't know. Like,
I'm going to try deer bumper sticker. Yeah. And sometimes they're in a heart because it's like a boy deer and a girl deer. Okay. Yeah. Browning buckmark. I don't know what that is.
Oh, that's like a gun, manufacturer, aren't they? Browning rifles.
Oh, probably.
But it's from Browning, which is it's gun. Yeah, so it's Browning, the gun manufacturer. Yep. This just means they're like hunting, either just hunting rifles or guns in particular, guns in general, rather.
I don't like the marathon ones because for a long time, like the 13.1.
Yeah. Okay.
Ones,
yeah.
I thought that was like a weird radio station. Which shows you how much I know about exercise.
What radio system are they listening to, man?
I don't know.
I can't even get 13.1.
It's exclusive. All right. You want to get started?
Yeah.
That was car talk.
This is a car podcast now.
Yes.
Yeah, let's get started.
All right. What are we talking about this week?
Well, today I figured we could do a little lesson on something that is near and dear to the hearts of every good American. That is small businesses.
Oh, good. Everyone has one of these, right?
Everyone has one. Everyone loves them. Mm-hmm. They're great. They're the best, right? I mean, that's the prevailing sentiment, I think, right?
Yeah. We're doing this. This should drop actually on Thanksgiving if we are diligent. And there's definitely a lot of posts going around saying shop small this year. Don't give Amazon any more money, which that sounds good. I don't like Amazon getting more money.
Right.
So what's the problem?
Okay. So yeah, we kind of wanted to break this down and talk about like you said, what's the problem with that approach? Mm-hmm. Is there a problem with it? What's up with small businesses in the first place? Like, why are they so prevalent, or why are they so kind of held up as as superior to other types
emphasized like culturally?
Yeah, there you go. So let's jump into it.
Okay.
With small businesses, I guess it's a good starting point to get kind of a definition.
Sure.
What we're talking about here. It doesn't have to be like as small as just like one person, or a lemonade stand. We're not talking necessarily that small. Small businesses, as a definition, the definition kind of varies. In the United States, typically, the country looks at it in terms of businesses that are 500 employees or smaller.
That's still pretty big.
Yeah, I would agree. And then worldwide, at least the statistics that I was looking at, their particular measurement was at fewer than 300 people.
Okay.
So a little smaller.
It's still big to me, but I'm also the one that has to figure out my taxes next year because technically I'm a small business now.
Oh, here we go. A little self-critique. Never hurt anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm writing a fucking book.
Well,
okay.
Look, if you're in a podcast with multiple people, if you don't run a business, someone there is probably running one, right?
That's true.
It's pretty prevalent, actually. So this is pulled from this is kind of weird that we have this, the U.S. Small Business Administration.
Okay.
This is a cabinet level agency in the federal government.
Damn.
The Small Business Administration. It's been around since 1953. Their whole deal is to like provide resources and kind of help small businesses navigate through starting, and then being a bit, I don't know how that's probably complicated. Doing all that stuff, that's what they're there to help people do, I guess.
Okay.
So I pulled the data from them, and they say that there's 60.6 million workers in the United States employed by 31.7 million small businesses.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I never remember the U.S. population, though, so I don't actually
So it's like 330 million people.
Okay.
But it's,
okay.
if you're wondering, like, percentage-wise, small businesses are a whopping 99.9% of U.S. businesses.
That does not seem right to me.
Well, the other, the big ones, there are fewer of them employing a ton of people. So
Is it because like businesses merge so much and like there's so many subsidiaries, so it's like, oh, actually they're owned by somebody else?
yeah. So when you look at the other part of it, they're 99% of the businesses. They employ only 47.1% of workers because they're so
thank
small,
God.
right? Like that,
Yeah.
So yeah, they're ubiquitous, but they're not necessarily employing everyone.
Interesting. That's weird.
Yeah. Worldwide, there are some 315 million small businesses. They call them something different. At least this is pulled from the World Bank data.
It's like our favorite organization, right?
Oh yeah, I love the World Bank. It's my favorite criminal enterprise. They call it MSME, micro, small, and medium enterprises.
Okay.
Whatever. They 315 million worldwide.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot more than I thought.
Me too. Yeah, I thought that maybe they would be 60-70% of businesses.
Yeah, I was thinking of that range too.
But yeah, I mean, that explains why you are also a small business proprietor now. You've joined their ranks. It was inevitable, One of us had to, statistically speaking.
Yes. I guess, yeah, right? Ugh.
So seeing kind of the scale of it and everything, we want to kind of get into why are small businesses seen as so central to and so important to and so, what do you say, like kind of esteemed or praised
Definitely, yeah.
in capitalist societies, particularly in the United States, but maybe in other places too. I'm not sure if, Europe has kind of the same attitude
Obsession.
toward it, or really anywhere where capitalism is.
Yeah.
If they're so like, oh, small business, it's great.
Yeah, it's super prevalent here in the States. Like, there is a lot of, like, pressure to support them, and, like, there's a lot of shaming if you don't. Like, it's a weird kind of ecosystem.
You mean like where you were saying, oh, don't give money to Amazon, that sort of thing? Or like
Yes.
buying at Walmart, like, ugh.
Or even, like, chain restaurants. It's like, no, you should definitely eat at a local restaurant, which I definitely try to do because I like our local restaurants.
Why? I was thinking about this. I think that there are several kind of reasons people give for why they like small businesses, why they prefer them over big corporations, right? Mm-hmm. On an individual level, and I guess we can take a look at that first. Why do people seem to prefer this? Because I think that the way that people express that actually gives you a clue and it's not, I don't think it's conscious for most people, but it's a clue at some sort of a critique they have of capitalism or like more corporate culture. They might not realize they have this critique, but I think that's kind of a way that they express it.
Okay.
An example would be kind of feeling a more personal connection with your local place, right?
For sure. I definitely do. I have my tortilleria I go to every week.
Yeah, you know the people who work there, you have a conversation, catch up with them and everything, Sometimes you want to go where everyone knows your name. What is that, what's the flip side to that? What's the critique of the opposite of that would be?
Well, when you go to like a bigger corporate place, they are under a lot of pressure, like time-wise usually. Like they have quotas and they have like, like if you're a cashier or something, like you can be measured on your performance, but like how quickly you check someone out.
Yeah.
So you don't have as many opportunities to like personalize, interactions with people. You're just trying to get them out the door.
Yeah. You're just a customer. To them, you're a faceless customer. To you as a customer, they're kind of a faceless employee. There's no personal connection. And especially like, and that's just talking retail, like big box sort of thing or something, right? But especially, I mean, how much personal connection do you have to Amazon when you order something?
Literally none.
Yeah, or like to Apple when you get the newest iPhone or Google or anything. Like, especially the big tech companies, nothing.
There's nothing there.
So I think that people are kind of expressing their kind of anxiety about that sort of like lack of interpersonal connection.
What I think is interesting about that, just like from a graphic design and branding background perspective, is that those bigger companies try to sell themselves on personal connection. Like if you think about Apple commercials, they're known for being really like kind of cutting edge and funky. And they're like, look how unique we are. And like, that's their whole thing. And like basically all tech companies try to do that. And it's funny because it's like they actually have no personal interaction with people whatsoever. Like they don't give a shit how unique you are. Yeah.
So they're kind of subbing in a little bit there. So they have anything at all. Yeah. Here's another critique people offer, or another reason why people say, oh, I shop small business because the profits will stay there with owners who oftentimes are working in those businesses.
Yes.
Right. So it's rewarding someone who is
like local,
visibly working. Yeah, they're local and they're working hard to get that money. Well, what's the opposite of that? What are they trying to oppose by doing that?
The idea of supporting like a giant CEO, I guess. Just Jeff Bezos.
So the CEO who's sitting in the boardroom doing nothing, who we all, the account executives who we all know are just kind of whining and dining and doing nothing. The people, the philanthropists or whatever who sit on these various boards and do nothing. Everyone's drawn a check just because of who they know, who their nephew is or whatever. They realize that the higher ups are doing less work to get more money. I mean, they get basically that it's not fair, right? The workers are getting
That's
screwed.
Interesting. I feel like a lot of people try to do both. Like I feel like a lot of people will say, I support small businesses, but then also turn around and defend like executive positions as like, oh, they're job creators. They worked really hard. Like, I think there is, at least in the States, there's this personalization or attempted personalization of those big companies. Like, oh, they wrote a book. Look how like they tell their stories, like everyone, for some reason, a bunch of people on the internet know about fucking Elon Musk's backstory. Like, I don't give a shit.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, I didn't even think about it. So maybe the titans at the very top have done a good enough kind of PR job to convince people that they do something worthwhile, but maybe your executive vice president would fit into this like category of just somebody, right?
Yeah, because the CEO types, they're more like celebrities now, I guess.
Yeah, I could see that. What I mean is like, they're like, oh, this owner is visibly working. And maybe for the Musks and the Bezoses and everything, they're visibly working by being a celebrity.
Yeah, they're not actually.
Whereas everyone else is, just kind of like playing golf and getting money,
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's one that people feel is that there's something unfair.
I think people assume that because they're working in the small business, like the owner is going to treat their employees better or something, or that like the employees get a bigger cut because like, in corporations, like you have a lot of overhead, when like the opposite is probably true. Like I've worked in a small place versus a big place, and the big place has a lot more money.
Yeah. The big place like pays a lot more money, or what do you?
Yeah, they pay a lot more. I mean, at least in my experience.
Well, someone might say, oh, but the executives there's a bigger gap, right, percentage-wise between what they make and what you make.
I mean, yeah, but like there was such a big gap between my salary at the first place and the second one. I mean, like I know my boss at the first place is doing pretty well. Like I'd seen their house is pretty good. So, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I would say to that.
No, I don't know if it's a fair criticism in most cases or if it varies. So
I will say, I mean, in design studios, at least a smaller studio will work you much harder because there's fewer of you and you don't have the resources. So in my experience, at least, it's a lot more work for a lot less money.
That makes sense. And you think that having that kind of smaller, more intimate or whatever, more, environment kind of opens the door for them to expect more of you? Yeah,
because it's so personal. Like they know you so well and they can just like be up in your business about it. And it has its trade-offs. Like I've talked about this before, where your clients are probably going to be a lot more interesting. You get to work on some cool stuff and maybe win awards, but like it's so much more work because they expect that out of you. It's like a boutique-y kind of thing, like it's got to be personal and got to be like really creative.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I was wondering too, in the dynamic, if that kind of boutique atmosphere also translates to like the employer-employee relationship, where like they're more demanding of you in that way too, like your more personal relationship. And maybe sometimes they push this as like, oh, we're a family here, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's definitely a common thing in smaller places. There's a lot more pressure to socialize and like, it's just weird.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, another critique, right? People say, oh, I want to shop small businesses because the money will stay there in the community.
Yes.
The company, the owners have more of a stake in the community, in the neighborhood, compared to, what's the opposite of that?
Oh, okay. So like a corporation buying up plots of land and not giving a shit if it ruins the town, basically.
Sure. I mean, development of all sorts, right? They don't really care what happens locally too much, as long as they're getting business, right? So people kind of intuitively realize that multinational corporations are just, it doesn't have to be multinational, just big chain stuff is extractive from there.
Yeah, it's not going to be good for your community.
Yeah, all that money and stuff, your local McDonald's or Walmart or whatever, that money, however well they do, it doesn't matter for your community. That money's going somewhere else, right? People understand that that's getting siphoned off.
I think, though, they will also, there's a big convenience argument, too. Like, oh, well, they'll have better stuff or whatever. Like, if it's a particular, like, a Walmart or something, might have a better selection, or at least more of a selection. I don't know about better than like a smaller grocery store, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not saying everyone does this. They might realize it, but the trade-off might be better for them to, and for a lot of people, it's just cheaper to get stuff at these places. I'm just saying that when people say, oh, I prefer small businesses because of that reason, they're kind of implying an understanding that the opposite is true for big businesses, right?
That's true. That's really interesting that all of these are like basically anti-capitalist arguments, but we just need to push them. Just need to nudge them over the edge.
Yeah, I think that they're onto a kernel of something. Like if someone is saying, oh, well, like a small business, like a small boutique shop of some sort, will have kind of a more artisan, more unique sort of experience.
We've definitely talked about that on this podcast, like the idea of craft and the art of everyday things.
Yeah, and people see that especially in food establishments, like you were saying, eating at kind of a local place instead of a chain restaurant. People, in some ways, sure, sometimes you want the familiar thing that's going to be the same everywhere, but in some ways, I think they also have this pull of like, pull against this kind of cookie cutter chain thing where all of these, you know, Chili's here is the same as in New Hampshire, is the same as in wherever. Mm-hmm. Not only that it's the same at that restaurant, but that it's turning their neighborhood, their small town or city into basically the same place everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when, like, the first time you went to your neighborhood where you live now, you were like, everything looks the same, like, even like architecturally. Yeah,
that was creepy. And I was creeped out by it, and then lo and behold, I ended up living there later.
Whoops.
But no, I mean, what I was getting at here with this little section is that, like we said, there's a little, you know, to get a little bit of it, maybe there's some way we can kind of push them in a different direction besides kind of a personal approach.
Yeah.
You know?
Can we talk about how some of these arguments don't hold up, though?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I have a couple big issues whenever people make these preaching statements, because they are very preachy, and that's one of my issues. One of the things is that it kind of villainizes poor people, and it talks down to them, and like people are saying like that Reddit thread, the people of Walmart. It's horrifying that people are so mean to these people who are just poor. Like they're fucking shopping at Walmart because it's convenient and they don't make enough money, and you should be mad that they're not making enough money.
And and it's a lot of kind of personal attacks or like kind of judging or body shaming and
lots
stuff like
of body
that.
shaming.
And it's just, you know, it's classist, and you know, they don't have their look put together. Dude, they're like getting groceries. Who cares?
Yeah. This is not the time.
Like, I'm supposed to put together an outfit that looks good for you to take a picture of me when I'm buying bread. What?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a very specific example, but a lot of these, there's a lot of shaming going on. Like, oh, you're stupid if you shop at Walmart or eat at McDonald's, and just like shitting on these places that, first off, I'm willing to bet fucking all of us have done that. Like, I know very few people that are 100% small business. Like, I don't think I know anyone who is 100%, but even like on chain restaurants, like we've all just been really hungry and needed to get some fries.
Yeah, I mean, I think that some people can be, you know, very dedicated, very devout, non-fast food people. Mm-hmm. Good on them. But no, I think that's kind of a tactic that's part of a larger kind of neoliberal or capitalist ideology of making kind of a societal thing into an individual choice thing.
Yeah, and like it has a lot of like healthism and stuff in it too. Like the McDonald's argument is really gross to me because it's like assuming that these people, one, have the funds to go like buy healthy food. Healthy food is expensive and often not there. Like there's food deserts, you know? Like that's a problem. And also that they have time. Like we've been cooking vegan lately and that's very healthy, but it takes us like fucking twice as long because you have to do a lot more prep whenever you're doing like all veg. Like you have to make it taste good.
Why? What do you have to do?
It's a lot of like sauces and like, okay, we got to dredge this and, you know, put it in panko. It's just a lot of steps.
Is it, so if it's vegan, is it because it's like various animal products that aren't meat that's getting in your way? Like milk and stuff?
What do you mean by that?
I just mean like there's dairy stuff that's getting in your way. Like, oh, we have to make a replacement, whatever.
No. We don't really fuck with replacement stuff very often. It's more about just like to make vegetables taste good and interesting and variety of textures and stuff. Like you just have to do more to them. Like meat's just going to taste good. Like meat and cheese make things taste good really easily. Yeah.
Okay. I see what you're saying. But no, I agree with you that basically this singles out people who can't afford to, in time or in money, make a different decision that they're making.
Yeah.
Some people can, you know, some people, you know, are just doing, you know, just kind of like, well, I don't feel like putting out the effort to do that, you know. Like you or I could make more business, you know, small business patronizing decisions, I guess,
sure,
if we wanted to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot to just put on people and say, that's what you need to do. Also, it ties into, I guess, kind of the whether it's useful thing. Like, why should we be badgering people to do this thing? Is it effective? You know, is it effective? Is it good? Does it matter if we do it? Yeah. So like, we'll get into that a little later, I think. But that's another kind of the other side of it is we shouldn't be classist about anything, you know, and targeting poor people about anything, but much less targeting them about doing something that doesn't have any necessarily positive effect.
Yeah, for sure.
Another thing I wanted to touch on in terms of how much import people place on small businesses and stuff, not just at the individual level, but at the zooming out, the societal level. Mm-hmm. Right. So why might it be that the United States, as a capitalist society, puts so much importance on small businesses and says, "Oh, guys, small business, it's great." Why? Why? What's the deal? What do they have to gain from that?
It makes you part of the system, I think, is the short answer. It makes you invested in it. It makes you see people as like labor. It makes you want the stock market to do well. Like it turns you into one of them, basically. It's like a zombie situation.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I have a longer-winded way to put it, but I won't, because that's the way to cut through it. It's a way to co-opt you into either an actual capitalist by being a small business owner, or it's a way to convince you that you are a potential capitalist.
Definitely. You sent me that article. Can we talk about that article?
Yeah, sure.
You sent me this great Jacobin article on Shark Tank. And I fucking love Shark Tank, but it is just like, if you want to drink the small business Kool-Aid, that is the home of it, is Shark Tank. Like, everyone is trying to pitch their own stupid fucking idea, and like, for
mostly useless products.
Mostly completely useless.
Nobody's demanding.
Yeah. But it is kind of addicting. It's like, I love predicting like what's going to get a deal and what's not. And it's, all the sharks are, for the most part, terrible people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's horrifying.
Yeah, no, it kind of gets you in this mindset of, you start seeing things from that perspective, maybe.
Yeah, and it sets up this really interesting paradox of like, they preach a lot in the show about like, this is the American dream. And I'm like, if the American dream is entrepreneurship and like everyone owns a small business, then how would that work? Like, you couldn't actually do that. Not everyone can be a small business owner because they don't have any workers.
And in addition, isn't it kind of, so I don't watch a lot of Shark Tank, but aren't most of the situations kind of fucked up? Like, oh, I spend 80 hours a week working on this thing, and my family works on this too, and our house is completely devoted to producing this bullshit thing, and we all work our fingers to the bone to do it. And oh, wow, this is the American, what, great. Like, no, man, I don't want to do that. That's very
bad. No, yeah. They either do that or like they used to be an investment banker and then they quit. So they had money. So yeah, it's one of those bad things.
Oh, man. Okay. Yeah. That's a good lens of it. I think that in general, though, you're right. It tries to, that is a way, that's one small example of how in general the whole glorification of small business is to co-opt everyone into sympathizing with or identifying straight up as the capitalist class, even when they're not. Right?
I think even like the kind of Etsy movement and that whole idea, taking something like nice that's handcrafted and like should be a wonderful thing. And I think I do shop at Etsy sometimes, into this big corporate structure that like really rips off and fucks over artists, by the way. So careful. And also it just commodifies it. Like, I don't know, like Instagram is basically now a mall. Like they have a new update that really has fucked over artists as well. So anyway.
Man, I didn't know that.
It's just, there's so much, they've pivoted. So it's all about shopping and video.
On Instagram it is?
Yeah, there's a shop tab.
Oh, okay.
And it's right where your notification tab used to be. And that's always where I go because I'm a creature of validation. And now I'm always looking at products instead, accidentally.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was a truly evil UI decision.
But yeah, that's, I guess another way. The whole thing is right. Converting us into, bringing us into their fold. And I guess it makes our appeals as communists, as leftists harder. Right, because when we are making these appeals to people, they can say, when the communists, when the anarchists, when the socialists attack capitalism, they're attacking you. They're attacking your neighborhood shop. They're attacking your favorite eatery. They're attacking you or what you could be.
Yeah.
Your dreams, your hopes. They're attacking you.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think it's really interesting just how the idea of the quote unquote American dream, are all these people just, have they never worked with other people before? Like, I just, why do you have to be the one? You know, like everyone sees themselves as their own hero, obviously. But it's like, are you the guy that's going to fucking revolutionize pizza? Like, do we really need another fucking pizza restaurant? You know, like,
Yeah.
and that's hard for me because, like, I'm an artist. I think I'm unique, but like, whatever. It's confusing.
Well, I guess maybe there's a couple parts, right? Like you said, everyone just is the protagonist, so that's normal. And I think there's a strong streak of we can call cliche kind of rugged individualism or whatever.
Exactly.
In America. This idea of someone breaking the mold and not following the rules, but coming out with some, that's kind of a trope in Hollywood.
Ugh.
And popular culture.
If someone doesn't follow the rules, I'm a big rules person. I mean, a lot of the people that break the mold and don't follow the rules also have like sexual harassment claims. So like, it's a concerning parallel.
Well, move fast and break things, even if those things are people.
Exactly, for sure.
No, I think that's just a part of kind of our culture, and maybe that is part of the superstructure to reinforce a base that values this sort of laissez-faire individualism, and also just atomizing people to keep them from resisting, to keep them from banding together. The more solidarity you have with people, the more you see yourself as part of a community, the more you're likely to band together with those people and do something to change your society.
Yeah.
If you think you're all alone, you think you're the guy, you're the one who's you're not interested in what's good for everyone else.
That's true. Can we talk about Puritanism? Because I feel like that's also a big part.
We can always talk about Puritanism, sure.
Well, I mean, you're talking about the superstructure, and I think there is this big puritanical thread throughout at least early American history of like, you have to work. Like the whole, what is it? Idle hands are devil's playthings. Mm-hmm. There is a very big work culture here.
That it is in some way good, not just as for its products, but that it's a good self-edifying thing. Like it is just good for you, for your spirit, for your wholeness as a person, right?
Yes.
So you're saying maybe that's part of that comes from that sort of reinforcing of capitalism thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Makes sense.
Okay, so we talked about what small businesses are and how society upholds them. But what do you say to the idea that they are better? Like small businesses are better than big corporations? Because that sounds like, even when I say it out loud, that sounds very obvious.
Yeah, I mean, because it's less of the bad stuff, right? Like
it's less bad.
That's the notion. I mean, I think that's kind of valid, is to say that sometimes it has a greater likelihood of being less bad. I think it depends on how it's structured. So there are like, it depends, I guess, if it is a normal capitalist enterprise, but just on a small scale, just fewer than 500 employees or whatever. Or if it's a worker cooperative, it's in a completely different category. That's
true.
actually good. Patronize those places. That's
for sure
a positive thing. They're not very prevalent, so it's harder to do. But sure. But if you're just talking like a normal business with a boss and employees, but just fewer, like that's not necessarily going to be any better, I don't think.
Yeah. I mean, you can go the extreme on that. Like look at nail salons where people are often like human fucking trafficked and basically held hostage for immigration reasons.
Yeah. And that's, and that's, someone might counter and say, well, that's actually, that's illegal. So it's not something that should be happening in the first place. I'm against that too, whatever. It still happens,
it still happens way too often.
Small scale that can kind of fly under the radar too. Mm-hmm. And in general, I think you don't even have to go to that extreme to say that exploitation is really the key when you're looking at whether this is good or bad. And in an employee-employer relationship, when it's got the corporate hierarchy of someone being the boss who's paying their workers less than the value they're producing, then you've got exploitation. It doesn't matter if there's only 50 people working at the place.
Yeah.
You're still not paying those workers as much as you should be because you're making a profit.
And at the end of the day, like I'm thinking about, I don't know, a local hardware store. It's like is your idea of a hardware store that innovative that you deserve to take more money from your workers? Like, because, that's often the defense is like, oh, they came up with it. It's their idea. They're job creators. And it's like, I mean, the workers are work creators. So, you know.
And I think people might say, oh, it's not just that. It's also that they've put forth the capital. They've taken the risk is how they'll put it sometimes to do that. And so without any of that there, the workers could not have done, they couldn't have just started this hardware store themselves or whatever, or they may not have done so. And so really it is still the capitalist gets to, reap these profits as the reward for making the risk in the first place.
I mean, as the reward for having money. You're rewarded with more money when you have money.
Yes. Yeah. That's ultimately what it comes down to is if you have the money, if you have the good enough credit to borrow the money, then you can make more money with it. Yeah. That's how our society is structured, how our economy is built.
I don't like it.
I mean, you could argue that maybe there's a way out in terms of, like we've mentioned before, with worker cooperatives. If you can get workers to if they can pool their resource to get together and in a way take over their company that way and all run it democratically. I mean, that might be like a soft way to transition to social ownership of the economy. But
seems hard.
Sure, we consider, that's nice. Yeah. But it's hard, and that would be opposed just as vociferously by capitalists. So, it wouldn't matter too much if you tried to do it the nice way, right?
Yeah. I mean, we even got a listener email a while back about someone who does try to run their business as ethically as possible, and it sounded really fucking hard.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because how are you going to balance all that?
Yeah.
And still turn a profit?
Yeah, yeah.
So I would say for sure, the exploitation thing is still probably going to be there in a small business. And on the flip side of that, that's assuming the best of intentions on the small business's part. But like we mentioned before, you can have a terrible boss. You can have a tyrannical boss in a small business as well as a large one, right? And so they're just that much closer to you to oppress you and to make your life shitty.
Yeah, and especially if it's a family-run business, then you got that whole dynamic in there. I love my family, but I would not want to be in a business with them.
Yeah, again, that's, it makes it more more
personal,
inescapable. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
I think that it's not necessarily a good thing for people. Like we mentioned before, the intimacy allows them maybe to wring more work out of you because, there's that personal connection. They know you. I was good to you. I gave you this job, whatever, it's not just like HR. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we think maybe, I don't know, where do we come down on this then? Are we saying that they are better than big corporations or not? Are they worse, or is it just kind of a wash?
I mean, I think it depends on the business, but I'm not going to go up to every small business owner and be like, can you tell me how you treat your employees? Because one, I don't have time for that. And two, they could just lie. So.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're going to try to do an investigative journalism piece on every place you sit down at, tell me, off the record, how, has your boss been treating you? Or do you have to go into this? No. Who also, again, this gets back into our classroom thing. Who has time for that?
No one. Very, very bored people.
Yeah. And you can get down, and people try to do this. They'll get granular with looking at the supply chain.
Oh my God, yeah.
Products, right? And you're going to find somewhere down the road that there was some place that was not run by a worker cooperative probably or something, that was run with some exploitation.
Yeah.
Right. And if you want to get further, into that, then, are you going to interview them and see if they have a good relationship with their boss at all these particular places? No one's going to do that.
Yeah, that's insane. Coming from the artist side, I know a lot of small businesses that produce very small runs of things, and it seems so fucking hard because these people are trying to do it ethically, and that really limits them. Their price point has to be really high. And even for things I follow a lot of plus size creators, and having to make sure that t-shirts go up large enough, because if they don't, their audience is going to be really fucking pissed. Even that's hard to do because clothing companies don't prioritize fat people because they don't see us as a profitable market. And it's a whole thing. And then not to mention trying to make those like ethically produced, because like clothing is a whole fucking clusterfuck of sweatshops. So it sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Would not want to fuck with it.
For sure. No. I don't know. I guess we're coming down on basically it's not necessarily bad. Like small businesses aren't necessarily worse or better. It depends on the place.
Depends on the place. And I think in general, though, they're still better. But I struggle with it because it's like, well, if you're telling me to shop small for everything, there's some instances where you just fucking can't. I can't get a small business iPhone. I can't get a small business, computer charger. Like,
you can't get an artisanally made computer charger.
If you fucking email me a link for that, I will delete it. Do not send me ethical chargers.
They gotta. I don't know. They probably don't exist. That's ridiculous. But yeah, you can't do it for everything. And I guess that gets to the root of what we're saying is that it's not the solution.
Yeah.
Right. So it may
alleviate some.
Yeah, I'm not going to say like you're a moron if you're doing this. I'm not going to even say that it's bad to do it. It's useless completely to do it. I think that probably it helps a lot of people feel better. Like, alleviates kind of your anxieties about things. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's instances where it can be good. Like if it's an individual creator, like I know I shat on Etsy a lot, but that's just, they have unfair policies towards their artists, but the artist still benefits some from it. Like if you want to buy individually from an artist, I feel like that's great. Like commissions are really great. Like for most people that just goes directly into their pocket. Like that's it, Things like Society 6 though, like I can go ahead and tell you, or like Redbubble, those kind of like demand printing things, like artists get a very small chunk off of that. So I think you're better off contacting them directly. Like I've done this before. Like if someone is selling a book, I'll be like, where's the best place for me to buy this so you get the most money?
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a good idea. I guess if it all washes out the same to you in terms of like your price, right?
Yeah. And I'm able to afford that.
Yeah, unless you have the means to toss extra money their way. You might as well just Patreon them. But
yeah, I mean, that's also a good option, is going to their coffee account or Patreon, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
But see, I guess what I'm saying is I don't want you to not shop small at all. Like, I still think it can be good. Just be careful.
What if we take this tack? It can be good on a small scale.
If it's like an individual person?
Yeah, for an individual person, for a particular place, if you just like your neighborhood pizzeria or taqueria or whatever, right? You just like that place, you want to pay. Okay, fine. We're not saying you can't do that.
I like it because it's called Home Run and their pizza box looks like a baseball diamond.
That's cool. No, I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with doing that or anything. But what I'm wanting to add is that it is completely and wholly not revolutionary at all. Does 0% to advance the fight against or even the resistance to capitalism as a system.
That's true. It almost enforces it because of that superstructure idea of like, well, if I need to support small businesses, that must mean small businesses are good, which means I should start one.
We're all potential capitalists. Yeah,
exactly. Like it supports that, and it makes you feel guilty if you don't support capitalism because you're taking money away from your friend who runs that boutique.
Yeah. No. So now, if you're critical of some element of capitalism or regulation or something, you've really got to make sure it's carefully worded so that it gives the exceptions to the places that you like.
Oh my God, the healthcare exceptions for small business. That kills me.
Yeah, because, how are they going to afford it? I'm just a small town florist,
Maybe you shouldn't have a business. That's exploitation.
Yeah, you're just a humble small town exploiter of workers.
Yeah, at that point, you're a fucking humble sweatshop if you can't afford healthcare for your employees.
And ultimately, our project is to decommodify that altogether. So honestly, we don't want small businesses actually to have to do that either. We don't want any businesses to have to pay for their healthcare of their employees. We just want that to be paid for already. Like, I mean, run it out of the general fund, national healthcare. That's it.
Perfect.
tax them like everybody else to pay for it, sure. But it shouldn't be, oh, now I'm working at this place. They now pay for my, we've talked about that before.
Yeah, but they should be held to all the same standards.
Right.
And yeah, it should just be a thing. Like, I'm sorry that you don't have enough resources for that, but like, you need to do that. That's non-negotiable.
Yep. Labor standards. That's one that is for sure. Like, we have labor standards there for a reason. To make sure that our workers, while they're being exploited, are not being exploited too badly.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be something that has an exception for small businesses, and that's something we can't really put out to the national government, I guess. But
yeah. So I feel like we've talked about this a little bit before, like in some of our artist episodes and stuff like that. But so there wouldn't be small businesses under communism because there's no businesses. Socialism would just be like highly regulated ones, I guess.
unless you're talking like, okay, let's flesh it all out.
Okay.
If you have like, social democracy, some sort of free market that's just regulated heavily and everything, then you're going to have small businesses.
Yes, they'll just be nicer.
If you're talking like you've actually made it to socialism, then you're still producing everything and running it off of like some sort of a credit system based on how how much you've worked. If you've worked and no one's getting like ripped off that way, but you're still buying stuff. So you'd still have enterprises of a sort. Now they wouldn't be, capitalist enterprises, so they wouldn't make a profit, any of them. It would just be workers getting compensated for however much they worked instead of paid less than they're worth.
That makes sense. Okay, so I work and then I go to the grocery store and I just get groceries for free.
And then
because
obviously
I show them my work card, which has 7 punches.
There you go. Yeah.
5 punches. I'm going to have a 5-day work week. Fuck that. 4 punches.
We've got vouchers going on now.
I think we should call them punch cards because it's more fun. What is the better feeling than filling out a punch card of like a gift? Like when you come back to a store,
like a coupon, but on your 10th coffee, you get the next one free.
On your 10th, on your 5th work day, you get free groceries and free everything else.
Yeah, I guess we could do that.
That's stupid.
Collectivist anarchists. That's who we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
They're the punch card communists.
Punch card communists. I like it.
And then obviously once you go to communism, you don't have to worry about it. Yeah. Like in any of the, with any of these, like you can, have this enterprise or whatever, like have this small scale business. I mean, I guess that's fine. I guess it's fine to have a big business, in those senses.
But you're not profiting, so you're not a business, you're just a producer of something.
You're a firm, you're some sort of a collective making things, a co-op.
Interesting.
Or what have you. They can be state-run or local-run.
So probably most of the time those kinds of services would be, and we've talked about this before too, but directed towards like greater good projects, like we got to fucking run this country, so like everyone work on that. But you could also have some for fun stuff too, I imagine. So like if you wanted to commission a painting from somebody, for example, you could just ask them to, and they could be like, no, or bake me some bread.
Oh, well, I guess you're getting a little commune on it.
It's a little
right?
bartery.
So,
yeah,
you don't have to make it so primitive, really. And socialist thing, I mean, you can go the voucher route, or you can just straight up pay people money, and that's fine, and still have money as a currency and everything. As long as people aren't ripped off in their wage point, then you're okay. But yeah, I don't see why we couldn't have luxury goods of some sort, recreational things. Mm-hmm. I don't think that we need to be
hardline about it.
Spartan. Yeah, we don't need to. I mean, we've said it before in terms of our episodes on art and stuff. Like, people should have nice, good things and enjoy like culture, and that's like part of our goal.
Yeah. Part
of our goal is not to kind of limit people, but to free people.
Yeah, I don't want to gatekeep any of that. Yeah.
Yeah. We're trying to get it to where everybody has what they need, right? There's a quote from Marx that says the realm of freedom begins where the realm of necessity ends.
Ooh, I love that. That's very like Maslow's hierarchy kind of thing.
Yeah, you have to care for people's basic needs, their security and their well-being, like their physical needs and stuff, their community and stuff. You build on that until, once you have a society where you have guarantee you're going to be able to eat, man, it's fine. It's good. You're going to be able to live in a place. You're going to have, you're going to have the right to life in terms of healthcare, in terms of, all these social services, education. Like once you can provide these things outside of the market where it's not a struggle to survive, then we can start actually freeing people to do what they want to do as humans.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this tweet a lot I saw that was like, think about how fucked up the phrase earn a living is. And it's been blowing my mind ever since. Like literally when you're born, it's like, you got to start paying rent, like not literally, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's, and not literally, but also like if you're born to a poor family, like you're fucked, and it's just so fucked. It boggles my mind that we still have like a bajillion people going hungry and homeless, and it just makes no sense.
Yep.
Sorry, that was just a little rant for you.
No, you're right. You're right. It does make no sense. It is something that we are trying to convince people of, that it's something that doesn't have to be the case.
Hey, does it make no sense, but it makes sense?
Oh, kicked off the podcast.
No.
All right. So small businesses, not really businesses, but enterprises in some way, right? Or groups that make shit. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. There we go.
We did it.
That's what we got for small businesses. You can do it if you want. You can patronize them if you want. But holding them up as some sort of paragon of virtue, not good. Don't do that.
Not a great idea.
It reinforces the capitalists when you do that.
Totes.
And it doesn't do anything to advance the cause of socialism or communism.
It makes you feel better, and you won't get called out on Instagram.
There you go.
That's about it. All right. Let's move to our holiday segment. I want to do a gift guide. This is mostly a joke. First off, let me say that.
Gift guide. All right. What do you mean?
This is how to shop for the leftist in your life, and I have categories.
Okay. All right. I'm eager to see.
Okay.
What are we? So I guess this is presumably for people who aren't shopping small and are hitting up like Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales.
I mean, yeah. A lot small businesses can have those too, I guess.
Okay, fair enough. I always just order things like a loser.
Yeah, basically, we have a family Christmas spreadsheet, and most of that is just Amazon links. So, yeah. We're terrible. Whatever. Oh, okay, real quick. I know I said we were done with the other segment. I always struggle with the Amazon thing because it's like, me personally, I'm not going to take down Amazon. Like me not buying a fucking phone charger. I don't know why I always go to phone chargers, because I always lose them. I had to buy like 8 this year. No, I'm not even kidding.
I've had the same phone charger for a long time.
What the fuck? Well, I bought some cheap ones that used to be a good brand, but then they started they made a burning smell. So I had to throw them all out. Mm-hmm. Anyway, me not buying something from Amazon is not going to bring down Amazon, and that's just another futility feeling that I have about it. So
yeah, that's true. It doesn't make you, in the aggregate, I guess it ends up mattering, but there's no way that individual choices like that are really going to change
it'd have to be a mass scale, and I just don't see that changing anytime soon.
It's the same thing that people get into with voting and stuff.
Yeah. All right, anyway, let's move on to more fun stuff.
All right, tell us about our gift guide.
Okay, so first up, we have your classic leftist witch.
Leftist witch. Okay, yes. We have our communist tarot card reading. I don't know a ton about witchcraft.
Yes.
Witchery.
Yes, perfect. You guessed the first item on the list, which is tarot cards. We always want tarot cards. Give us tarot cards.
All right. Hey, cool.
Yeah. I just bought one from the artist Tilly Walden, and it's beautiful. And it has gendered terms, but like the people in them look fairly androgynous. Like, it's one of those decks where like you look at it and you're like, this guy could be gay. You know, like everyone there looks like they could be queer, so it makes me happy.
Awesome. That's cool.
I also found this site. I think it's, I don't know, I'm sure how to pronounce it, but ASALieEarthwork.com. That's ASALIE earthwork.com. And they have like tarot card listings, and they have a collection that's like all queer trans people of color. So like you can go support those small businesses. But I also think that's important because like when I was looking for a deck, I wanted something that I could relate to. And I think just the traditional deck is pretty European.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like playing card figures of like the king, the whatever, right?
Yeah. I mean, man, you really don't know anything, huh?
Nope.
It's called the Rider Waif deck or Waif. I don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah, you would recognize it if you saw it.
Okay.
Probably. I actually don't know if you would.
I don't know. The only one I ever see is in like TV shows. They're like, oh, you got death.
It's the death card. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the one. All right. I would also recommend a book. It's called Enchantments by Maya Spalter. Maya is spelled Mya. So maybe it's Mia.
I don't know.
Probably Mia. Anyway, my bestie got me this book. I'm a super beginner witchy kind of folk. And all I really do is put cute shit together and say, this is what I'm going to think about today. And that's how you make an altar, people. It's pretty great.
What does it do?
It's like you just put different things together, and like things can have symbolism, like orange is supposed to be good for this. And like, I mostly just put whatever I like together. Like I'm working on a book. So I have this, I'll show you. I have this mini wooden book thing, and it has a light in the middle.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah. The book
I'm
light.
like, yeah. And I'm like, well, that's kind of symbolic. So I just like leave it out on my desk for me to like just be near it. It's stupid, and I like it.
It's okay. Stupid question coming up. So is this?
Yeah, what's up?
Is this supposed to influence you or like your environment too? Like, can you put an altar together to be like, I want to get a raise at work, or like, I want to have I want something else to happen externally, not just like in like you yourself.
Yeah, you totally can, and the book goes over things like that. So
can you put one together that's like, fuck this person, I want them to fall and break an arm or something?
I mean, you can. The book does not go into that because they're like, don't do that. That's mean.
Okay.
So yeah, but I mean, I'm agnostic, so I'm not actually that into. I just think it's fun, you know.
Okay. All right. Cool.
All right. Next up, if you have a militant leftist in your life.
Ooh. All right. We all know one of these. Hopefully.
I think like the go-to's got to be black clothing, right?
Like leather?
No, just like, well, if they're going to like riots and shit, they want like black long sleeve t-shirts, and like a beanie,
Throw
stuff
some
like
red
that.
in there too.
A little bit of red, yeah, for some flair.
Let them know you're not just an anarchist. Although if you're just an anarchist, just give them just the black and the white. But
yeah, that works too. I just wrote maybe a gun or a gun range membership. I don't know how that works.
Oh, so you'd want to sign them up with the Socialist Rifle Association.
Yeah, you could do that. There you go.
That way, and this is interesting actually because I listened to some episode of theirs on their podcast.
Who?
The Socialist Rifle Association.
Oh, okay.
And they were talking about how one of the things that they strive for is to create kind of a welcoming environment for leftists who are into gun culture.
Oh, I remember reading about this. Yeah.
It's like way different. Like, I mean, if you think about it, stereotypically, when you think of people who are going to gun range, you're thinking right wing.
Yeah.
White conservative men.
Yeah.
Right. And so people of color, non-cis people, like, everybody who doesn't really conform with that is, this is a better environment for them to get to go to the gun range together with other like-minded people and stuff and feel safer in that.
That's true. That's nice.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of like militant leftists are also into survival gear, so you probably could get them something like that.
Oh, like tactical survival gear or something?
Yeah, like a bow and arrow or something
cool
like
backpack.
that.
Yeah.
That'd
be cool.
Some drums for their bags of rice,
They can, they have plenty of good guerrilla equipment.
Yes. And finally, I did definitely look up Antifa on Etsy, so I've moved up on the watch list, so that's fun. But there are some cool flags.
You literally advocate communism, which is, as we all know, is illegal in the United States. So.
I know. All right, let's get to my people, the queer commies. There's some really cool luxury gay space communism merch out there. Lots of like NASA ripoff shirts, which I love.
Awesome.
So if someone wants to get me that, I'd be happy.
You're putting it on your list now.
Yeah, basically. Probably anything from the witch category. A lot of queer people like witchy stuff. So like, just get them a crystal or whatever.
That's like a Venn diagram with a lot of overlap.
I would say so, at least. Maybe that's just my circles. Enamel pins. We love a good pin. Can't help it.
All right.
And, I have another book, Genderqueer by Maya Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the book that cracked my egg. Do you know what that term means?
I mean, no, it sounds like some sort of a breakthrough or revelation or something.
Yeah, basically. It's like a term that trans people use, like when they realize, like, oh man, like I'm trans.
Okay.
So anyway, so this is the book that did that for me. I remember what's great is I read it and I was like, no, I don't relate to this. I'm fine. And then I read it a few months later and I was like, oh no, I relate to most of this. So sit with it. It's very good. It's beautiful illustrations, just gorgeous comic work. So recommend. Awesome. So I also wanted to include marginalized communities. Now is a great time to make a donation to like a food bank or food pantry. Some places have like those little like community pantries that are just like up in your neighborhood. Like those are really cool. Like sometimes they have like books you can like give and take and stuff. So consider doing something like that. Or mutualaidhub.org is another great place to find a local mutual aid fund in your area.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of folks out there in need, especially with the pandemic going on and everything. It's
and unemployment running out.
Yeah.
Yeah, what the fuck, guys?
Congress is on vacation now, so
it's great.
This is a way for you to do what your bourgeois government will not do.
Yeah. All right, let's go to our last section, which is for the nerds in your life, like us.
Nerds, yeah, that's me. I'm in that one.
Yeah, I mean, we could also add D&D stuff to this so that I fit into it more. But yeah, you can get in some books. Let's talk about some books that we like.
All right.
I'll start. I mentioned this one last week on the podcast, but Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez. Really good book. There's some parts I didn't like she needlessly took a stab at Bernie Sanders in the introduction. And I was like...
In the introduction? Wow. Not a good way to start.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to really grit my teeth to keep going there. But there's some really interesting stories in it. Like, I particularly love the chapter on workers' rights because you're like, yeah, workers' rights, those are great, right? And it's like, well, a lot of those don't actually account for like the requirements of women. So when you look at safety equipment, a lot of it is oversized for women, and that's very dangerous. So loose sleeves can get caught in things, like boots, if they're too big, you can trip. Like there's just so many issues with that. So like very good book so far. I haven't finished it yet, but I really enjoy it. Lots of talk about unpaid labor too, which I'm very passionate about. So yeah. Recommend.
Yeah. The research that we were doing for our last episode makes me think of the intersectionality of that and everything.
For sure.
All right.
Your turn.
My turn. Obviously, if you ask a leftist online what you should be reading, you've made a mistake. But
first off, I'm sorry.
The reply you're going to get, probably your top reply will be go read some theory. Go read Marx and Engels. And honestly, it's not a bad idea. Like, it's hard. It's annoying to try to read. Yeah. Plus
or minus. Podcast instead.
Yeah. We'll have to get into some more reading. So
we should take this off the list.
Take this one off?
I'm just kidding.
But yeah, any of that good pre-reading for when we get around to it. Plus or minus anybody who fits your particular stripe. You want to toss in Lenin there. You want to toss in Mao there. It's up to you, man. I mean, some people will be like, don't read that. It's revisionist trash or whatever. Who cares? Do you? Whatever. You do you. Read it. Figure out if you like it. Meh.
Draw your own conclusions.
Can that not be my real recommendation, though? I don't want that to count as a recommendation.
Okay, that's fine.
You should do it, I guess, but I'm not making it like a hard, go do this.
Well, if you do want to find it for free, Marxists.org is a great resource. Ton of free shit on there.
Yeah, for sure. But I would recommend as a primer to especially either American listeners or because you guys have a lot of kind of unlearning to do If you came from public schools or from our normal education system, you have a lot of unlearning to do. If you didn't get a lot of American history and stuff in college, or for just anybody interested on getting a real critical look at American history, would be A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn.
It's a good one. I read the first bit on audiobook. I don't remember how far I got. It was good though. I just didn't finish it.
Yeah, audiobook is how I got through it too. It's a really good read/listen, and will break through a lot of the myths that America kind of presents as its history.
Nice.
So yeah, that's my first real one. Besides theory, of course.
You have to. If you don't, they kick you out.
Yeah.
They kick you out of the leftist club. All right. My next rec, I've also mentioned this on the podcast before, is Marriage: A History by Stephanie Kuntz. Very good. Again, lots of intersectionality in there, just talking about the commodification of women and labor and just how that got all weird. So it's interesting.
Awesome. Let's see. A couple of other ones I wanted to recommend. This was kind of a pair. And I actually will probably revisit this sometime over the holidays because I read this years ago. But it's a pair of books about the Vietnam War.
Okay.
And it's not particularly leftist in the sense of, I guess directly advocating for communism or socialism or anything, but it's kind of I think it's anti-imperialist in what they present. One is called No Other Road to Take, a memoir of Mrs. Nguyen Thi Dinh. And it's from the perspective of someone who was fighting in I believe they were in the Viet Cong specifically. So in the South Vietnam's guerrilla movement against that government.
Okay.
And the reason I guess that I find that one so interesting is because you don't really get that perspective ever.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
When you're studying about, the history of the Vietnam War or anything, it's always like, well, what did this look like from the point of view of America, right? And even with the anti-war movement and stuff, even those accounts are still focusing on the cost to Americans, whereas this is more focused, on what it looked like for Vietnamese people there. Yeah. The other book that is in a similar vein is called The Sorrows of War by Bao Ninh. And this one is from the point of view of a North Vietnamese soldier. All right. But it's very negative. It's very anti-war. Right. And in fact, like the Vietnamese government was even like resistant to let this book be published. I don't think they have any like censorship on it now or anything, but earlier on they were kind of against it and stuff because it wasn't patriotic. It didn't buy into kind of the story that is sold about war and everything is that this is this glorious struggle, blah blah blah. It was just about the sufferings of some human being in that, and I think that's kind of that's a good perspective that I think can get lost, especially if I think you're good about it. But when we get into kind of revolutionary stuff, you're kind of like, yeah, but that's scary, right?
I'm good at being a weenie.
Well, I think it's good for leftists to read about and make central to our ideas about anti-imperialism.
Yeah.
Right. That we're doing this not just because it's, we don't like America or we don't like the West or whatever. We're doing this because it's saving people's lives and saving people from suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's an important point. It's not just because we love to be angry.
Right.
Although I do. All right. My next one is one we've been reading together this year, which is Open Veins of Latin America by Eduardo Galeano.
Yeah, I'm almost finished with mine.
I know, me too. On the last section, my review of this is, it's really good until you get to the last section because it's just all inscrutable 1970s economics, which I just can't even, I will read the same sentence over and over again. But the rest of that is really good.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that and doing an episode on it. It'll be cool if you want to do some pre-reading on that. Be a nerd.
Yeah.
Check that out.
It's really good. It opened my eyes to a lot of the horrors of imperialism. So, yeah.
All right. My next one is a little shout out to our anarchist listeners here.
There we go.
It's called In Defense of Anarchism.
I wonder what that one's about.
It's by Robert Paul Wolff. And it's been a while since I've read this one too. But I was liberal when I read this.
How'd that go down?
And it was very insightful. I was just like, whoa, like this does kind of make logical sense. And I don't think that it really it doesn't make a leftist appeal. That's something you kind of have to graft on to it. But so if you're coming at this from like maybe a right-wing perspective, it may just drive you to like anarcho-capitalism. I don't know. Oof. But if you are coming at this from a left-leaning perspective, you can start to see how like anarcho-communism or anarcho-syndicalism or something where you have this sort of decentralized society could be a really good thing in terms of what we were saying in terms of people's freedom, right?
Yeah.
Now, our cause, of course, is concerned with making sure we end that realm of necessity before getting there. But I guess it helps us to kind of center things on people's right to govern themselves, right to make decisions for themselves.
Interesting. So maybe don't give this to like just anybody.
No,
make sure they won't go the wrong way with it.
Yeah. Because you can take this into a, don't tread on me direction if you want.
Oof,
if you're,
God.
A
shithead.
Yeah.
All right. My last recommendation is a fiction book, and it is Autonomous by Annalee Newitz.
Ooh.
And I read this early this year, and it was really good. It has a lot of like class commentary on it. It's about like artificial intelligence and like autonomy, obviously. And it's really cool. There's like direct language about like selling your body for labor. Very interesting.
Awesome. That sounds kind of cool to explore in kind of a sci-fi sort of setting. Before I get to my last pick, one thing I did want to kind of add about Defensive Anarchism by Robert Paul Wolff is that when Wolff wrote this book and everything, it did receive some like praise from the political right, like I was saying. That was very much to his surprise. He was trying to be very critical of capitalist social relations, private markets, the economy. He thinks like liberalism and conservative or free market stuff is kind of bullshit in that way.
Yeah.
So he was against that, and he was kind of like, what the hell? Why are you getting this from a book? So
that sucks.
Just wanted to make sure I'm not like bringing this guy down because that's not him. He wrote a good book.
It's not his fault.
You should read it if you're leftist, but people run with it in a different direction sometimes.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
My last recommendation is by an author named Kim Stanley Robinson. And this is something that I actually want to read. I have not read it yet, but it's his Mars trilogy. Mm-hmm. And so it's supposed to have a lot of good, interesting themes there. It explores alternatives to modern capitalism. He kind of presents capitalism as an outgrowth of feudalism, so similar kind of Marxist class analysis there. And he kind of presents workable, basically socialist or worker-owned alternatives to that. And so it's got this like theme of egalitarianism, a theme of ecology as well, like ecological sustainability. I've been curious about this for a while. It's something that I do want to check out. So listeners, you can get a head start on it.
Nice.
If you want.
That
it's
sounds
sci-fi
really good.
Also. So
wonderful. What's funny is I was looking up that last one I mentioned, Autonomous, and Kim Stanley Robinson had written like a review for it.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So they're buds. They're book buds.
Awesome. Those tie in together then.
All right. I think that wraps it up.
All right. So next time, do you want to know what's next on our agenda?
Yeah, I lost my syllabus at the bottom of my backpack. So
that's okay.
Tell me.
Email you another one.
Oh, thank you. I'll bookmark it.
We're all paperless now. The next thing we're going to learn about is the Black Panther Party.
Nice.
Yeah, I think this is going to end up being kind of an overview. We'll, talk about some of the main leaders involved, the party's ideology, goals, and structure, and the activities of the Black Panther Party and how they fit into the kind of overall history of leftism in America.
Yeah, because that's a big topic. So this will be one of those where every 5 minutes we're like, oh, this is going to be another episode. So
yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to learn about that. And I hope you all are too. And in the meantime, what you can do with that excitement is show us some love online. So we are on Twitter at teachcommunism, Instagram at teachmecommunism. You can send us an email, teachmecommunism@gmail.com. If you want to Send us your own cool book request or movie request, stuff like that, suggestions for an episode, anything, questions, compliments.
Yeah, mainly compliments. I mean,
mostly compliments. Please put a compliment in the subject line. Anyway, if you want to give us even more compliments in a public fashion, actually, make sure, you can email us a compliment, but mostly put compliments for us on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, we love those more.
Yeah. Sorry, email complimenters.
I love the email ones, though. They're also personal. So
they are really sweet.
Yeah.
Do both.
Porque no los dos.
Porque no los dos. All right. Do both and give us a review, rating, etc. Oh, we also are on YouTube. If that's your preferred method, just look us up on there. And then we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/teachmecommunism. At the end of the year, we will be donating those funds to a local mutual aid fund. So that'll be good. Support your Dallas buddies here.
Heck yeah.
And what you get with Patreon, $5 a month, you get access to our notes for each episode, so you can see what we wrote up.
Yeah, that's all good stuff. You should check out those notes. Yeah, do everything that we just mentioned.
It's your homework.
Great listeners, great students. Speaking of which, thanks for bringing a great student today, a great co-host, I guess, because we kind of both bounced all this off. It wasn't just hey, Christine, here are small businesses.
Well, that's what you get to do next week. You get to teach me.
All right. Back to the student desk. Back to the chalkboard.
Those desks aren't comfortable with the little metal thing in there. Like, if you got a tummy on you, man, that is not comfy.
Yeah, they're not great for different body shapes.
Or lefties. I'm a lefty, so both ideologically and with my hand.
They're not great for leftists, yeah.
Probably not.
All right. Okay. Well, listeners, you guys can tune in next week for another episode of Teach Me Communism, where the class struggle is always in session.
All right, bye.
Bye.